disease, go right ahead. If you don't know if it's diseased or not and you're iffy, I'd rather have you be safe than sorry. If you're familiar and you know what it looks like when it's diseased, or if you go ahead and throw it away. But if you feel confident, yes.
Oh, how do you know it's diseased? The spider webs? How about the green tomato worms?
No, those are insects. In the
How
sense
do you know
that
it's diseased?
exactly. If you don't know, you can bring it to someone to check. But if you're in the middle of trying to get rid of stuff, put it in a trash bag and get rid of it. When we're talking disease, we're talking about the fungal diseases and the bacterial diseases and viruses. So powdery mildew, bacterial leaf spot, septoral leaf spot, anything that it's more going to be like color changes or different things on the leaves versus like chewing marks from an insect. Yeah, if you're unsure, just put it in a trash bag and throw it out. Yeah. Yes.
Speaking of color changes.
Yes.
The peonies that were hit by
the chlorine spray?
Yes.
Yes.
What am I going to do with those? I mean, I need to move them. She wants to move them.
Those you can cut right down anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to get rid of those leaves. Yep.
But can I move those peonies now because she wants them out of there?
Elena, refresh my memory. When is it better to move peonies?
Actually, I prefer to use them, to move them in the spring.
In the spring.
Just as you start to see
Yeah.
them coming up. Some books say you can move them in the
I'm going
fall,
to go with the spring as well, because peonies are very tricky that if you plant them too deep, then they won't bloom. So they're kind of picky. So I like the thought that if you wait until the spring and you see the new growth, then you know exactly what's going on, how deep to plant it, new growth. You don't want to cover that type of thing because you are going to be cutting these down.
Especially like in zone 5 or zone 4. I would definitely move them in the spring and not in the fall.
Yep.
And all those roses that took her hair,
Just deadhead, don't
Deadhead.
prune. Yes. Yep. So deadhead.
right.
Yep. Would you like to deadhead this coreopsis? I mean, would you like to prune this coreopsis?
I want to see the fern.
With the fern?
I have some ferns right now here that are beautiful.
Why don't, this is one of the easier ways to do this is to kind of gather it up because there's so many leaves here. And just start cutting away.
So even though her ferns are beautiful right now.
If you can, no, you don't have to do that now. You can do putting your garden to bed in stages. If you have some things that you are still enjoying and you want to, leave them, that's fine. It's up to you. If you're crunched for time like me, I just go through it once and that's it. I don't care if the echinacea still looks good, if the Virginia, the portfolio, the pig leaf squeak thingy, it looks great, but you know what? I want it gone because I don't want to do this twice. And I have a very small section. Sometimes you need to manage it when you have a big area. Yeah.
All those tall Miss Kim lilacs.
Yep.
We never did.
You know, it's better because it'll give you more of a bloom set. And also with deadheading, kind of like the hydrangea, if you leave the lilac blooms on there, sometimes they will collect the snow and again pull the branches down. A lot of ours, the Miss Kim is a shorter variety, it's a Korean lilac, so usually you can probably get to the top of that. But these older ones, the Syringa vulgaris, the common lilac, some of these puppies are really high. And they're also pretty strong that usually they don't do too much when we get the snow on them. But generally, rule of thumb, right after they bloom. Right. No, they're dead. Just remember, you're just deadheading it, not pruning it. Yeah. Yep. So I think that's pretty much going to wrap everything up. And now it's been question and answer, but does anybody have any more specifics that they have about putting your garden to bed? I mean, there's so many topics, so.
I have one question.
Yes.
I have a hydrangea that didn't bloom this year. I don't think it's getting enough sun. Can I transplant that now?
I don't like to do any kind of transplanting of the hydrangeas until the spring, personally. Have you had any luck doing it in the fall?
I've never done it in the fall.
I hands off on the fall for those. Anything that is heavily active and growing, like a hydrangea or a rose in the later months, I don't like to touch until spring. Kind of like the same rule of thumb with pruning. I don't like to do any kind of moving or touching until, when it's safe to prune, it's safe to move, in my opinion.
Unless you're putting something in that's new like this.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I wouldn't dig it up and put it in.
Right,
I
right.
wait.
yep. Any other questions? Yes,
Going back to the rows again.
yes.
I did deadhead the rows, the
Mhm.
tops. Now there's all new growth coming back in with new leaves.
Mhm.
I
That's
don't
fine.
I don't touch that.
Nope, nope, because what that soft, supple red color of the new growth is gonna get harder and turn greener, and it's gonna harden off, and it'll be fine. So, yeah, as long as you're not cutting any, if it forms new buds, great, just deadhead those flowers that have gone by, but don't cut any more than that.
Could
Yep.
you, use that stuff on the warts?
The wilt proof,
Yeah, you could use that on the roses, right?
you can use it on the rose stems because it is gonna drop its leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are products out there that are kind of like sealants, so if for some reason something happens, you're mowing and you accidentally back up into your rose bush and you break a branch off and it's like November and you were mulching your leaves or something, I don't know why you'd have your lawnmower in November, but something happens, you back up, you back up into it, you break it, there are some other products that you can seal it, that you can do to cover, kind of put on that stem because it's a fresh cut, because what's gonna happen is, bugs, insects, just even bacteria, things get in there, and then next thing you know, you have this big nodule next year and a big infection, so.
I have some pretty tall roses, and I used to wrap them with burlap,
Mhm.
and try to get to the top of them.
Yep, now you just mound, right?
No, I
No.
don't, I just wrap them until I can,
Reach them?
run out of burlap.
Mhm.
And then what I've done before, I start to wrap them, is I use the wilt proof on all the canes.
Yep.
And after the leaves have dropped.
Yes,
And they come through the winter fine
yeah,
with the wilt proof.
yep, yes, Marty.
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment to make, because there are some of us live in areas in which our gardens are quite considerably confined to containers.
Mhm.
And I had, by some miracle, very good luck in doing this. I had read that you could, and I'm passing on this information. If you've got a perennial or a bush that you've got in a container, and you want to keep it over the winter, if you do whatever you do for it, if it's in the ground, and take that container and put it, I put mine in, we have bushes, like rhododendrons in the front yard. I put it in there. If you put it where, take it to the article I read, said take it where, if you live near the woods, don't take it down. Put it where it's going to be protected, not against a building, but somewhere where it's going to be protected. Because Betty May will attest to the fact. I got a blueberry bush last year in a container, and I wintered it over, and Betty May got it, and it apparently is still.
It's fine.
So
It's
it's possible
Yep.
to do that, and I
My-
mention it because sometimes we do have perennials in a
Right.
pot, and we want to keep them.
My mother-in-law has rose bushes that she overwinters in the garage. She leaves them in the pot, this size pot, she enjoys them, and she puts the whole pot in a ceramic pot, enjoys them all summer, and she doesn't want to plant them in the ground because the only place she can plant them in the ground, there's no sun, so that's why she has to have them on her patio. So she takes them, she just prunes them, she lets them stay outside till a hard frost, till they've lost all their leaves, and then, she just deadheads the flower, she doesn't prune them, and then she brings it in, and then she puts it in the garage, which is not heated. She just puts it in the garage, and they stay there. The only thing is that you have to water it every once in a great while. That's
The
it.
thing about, one thing I did want to mention in this, that you want to be careful. Do not do this if you've got it using a ceramic pot or a clay pot. Because
Right.
they will freeze and crack.
Yep.
But you don't.
That's why she leaves them in the plastic pot and then puts it in the ceramic. Yep.
I was just
Exactly.
amazed. I've had a strawberry plant that I did the same thing, and every year it just kept coming up in the same pot.
Yep.
Yeah, I've done that with an azalea.
Yes.
I have an azalea in the pot, and last year, I do that, Marty, I put it underneath a rhododendron.
Yeah, but we have got this beautiful rhododendron in my yard, so it's gonna,
Yep.
and then you also, if you, in a lot of cases, you pray for a lot of snow, because snow is a wonderful insulation.
Exactly. Yep. Any other questions?
What
Yes.
about geraniums? Can you discuss geraniums?
The perennial or the annual geranium?
Perennial. and
Okay.
Overwintering and all, so
You-
starting new plants and.
Yep, overwintering, you can cut them. Yep, you can cut them right down. And when you say overwintering, if you're afraid that, you know, you're not gonna have them survive the winter, you can do some salt marsh hay, you can just pile something up over, like, so it's gonna look like this after you cut it.
Yeah.
You know, you can just mound some mulch, some straw, some pine needles, anything, even compost if you don't have anything else.
Yeah.
And then just remember to move it when when you start to open up your, when you start to get in your bed instead of putting your garden to bed, when you making your bed in the spring. When you start making your bed in the spring, you just want to kind of, brush that away and let everything come up, so. And with regards to dividing them, or you mean like if you have one that you want to overwinter in the house, or?
Yes, that's what I usually do. I have a warm area with a lot of glass.
You mean like our logo flower, that geranium?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Have you had any experience with that?
Not that particular, because mine are in the ground.
Yeah, and that's what I'm concerned about. You gotta be careful about some of these perennials that are hardy to our zone that really need that downtime, that resting period, that cold period. Because sometimes if you just keep pushing it and pushing it, it's just gonna poop out one of these days. I have had some people that have managed to keep like a regular red annual geranium in the house, and then all of a sudden they'll have it for 3 years and it'll just flat out die. So, because it exhausts itself. Mother Nature made them perennials because that means that they need to rest in the winter and come back for a reason. So sometimes you can get away with it for a year, but in my experience, I found that they need that resting. That's how they were built, that's how they were designed. And just like why don't apples grow in Florida? The same reason oranges don't grow in Maine or New Hampshire, because there's that stimulus of that cold period that they need. So.
Now, annual geraniums are a different story.
Yeah, annual geraniums are a different story. That's why I was asking. So, yeah.
I've had my mother's geraniums, and she's been gone for 10 years now. And I keep them down in my basement under the plant lights.
Yep.
I cut them back and water them probably maybe 3 times during the winter. That's it. And
But they're also not flowering for 12 months out of the year. They'll just have some green, and that's what takes the most energy is when they flower.
Yeah. And they come back beautifully, and like around probably February, March or so, they start to leaf out again, and then I take cuttings.
Yep.
And
You propagate them again. Yep.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And if that's all the questions that we have, that's going to conclude this program. So I hope. Oh, wait, one more question. Yes.
No question.
Oh.
I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.